All right, everyone. So my name is Sean Flynn. Today's conversation is how to sell your company. And what's going to be covered today? We're going to talk about, I think everyone, Rob, are you in charge of muting everyone or do I have to change something real quick? All right, fantastic. So some of the topics that will be covered today is why do people sell their business? Does it make sense to work with an investment banker or another professional? What are the step-by-step, what is the step-by-step process for selling a company? How long does it take? How do you go about getting the most value for your company? And what are things to avoid during the whole deal process? And questions that we most commonly see from buyers. So there's going to be a lot that's going to be covered today. And well, save your questions to the end. A lot of stuff we will cover, but post them in chat. So first off, who am I? If you want to scan the QR code there, it'll take you to my LinkedIn to connect. I do want to stay in contact with everyone that's attending this event. I work mostly mergers, acquisition, growth capital, and secondaries, but to find out more about me, like I said, scan my QR code, go to my LinkedIn, let's connect there. Some awards that I've won. I've been, top closer at micro acquirers. I just got the Association of Corporate Growth. It's a pretty big organization, investment banker to watch in 2022. Throughout my career, I've worked with companies from startups to public companies, unicorns, helping them set up operations in different markets. Pretty extensive career in my time. But more important, I'm the host of the Silicon Valley Podcast. It's an award-winning podcast here in Silicon Valley where I interview entrepreneurs, investors, leaders in technology. Some of the people I've interviewed include Jim McKelvey, co-founder of Square, which is now Block, Melanie Perkins, co-founder of Canva, Avram Miller, co-founder of Intel Capital. Pretty good list. McGish and Martin, muting you guys. So I've given talks all around the world, from Shandong to Guiyang to in Beijing to here in Silicon Valley, Chamber of Commerce to different panels, different discussions on a wide range of topics. Some of these include mergers, acquisitions. Some of them include process of raising capital. Some of them how to interact with incubators and accelerators. Let me figure out how to turn, or at least Rob or someone, if you can figure out how to make it so everyone, when they are unable to mute themselves, that'd be fantastic. Please let me know. But giving talks all over the world, been fantastic, loved it. A lot of different topics, a lot of it around, business, economic growth, the latter. So let's just start off with why use a professional to help with your sales? A lot of reasons for it. One, when you ride a bicycle, there's a difference between reading about how to ride a bicycle and actually riding a bicycle. Same with selling a business. There's a difference between learning the process and actually going through the process. And is it a good idea to learn the entire process, learn step by step on your own business, something that you've worked for years, or is it better to get someone that has walked through this process multiple times to help you? It's up to you. The evil banker leaves the deal when it closes. What do I mean by that? Well, during the negotiation process and the entire process itself, there's going to be times where you're talking to the buyer if you're the seller, and it might get heated over deal terms, over just the questions that are asked. Maybe you're thinking they're a little bit too personal, or maybe they're, you don't understand why they're changing their offer based on something. There could be a lot of reasons for it. Well, when there's someone else involved in the deal, that intermediary, that person bridges the gap between the buyer and the seller, which is great so that they take the heat. They can be the bad guy. They can be the one that pushes back. They can be one that says no to this, yes to that. Hey, have you thought of this? Hey, that's a little bit too much. Calm down. It keeps the conversation going. That person, well, they play a very pivotal role in communication. And then when the deal is done, they leave the picture, they walk away. So maybe you have some type of agreement like an earnout where you're going to be working with the company for a year, 2 years, 3 years after the transaction. You don't want to go into that with a bad feeling with, I don't like this company that just acquires. That relationship's just not strong, where because of past arguments. But that banker that was involved, well, that's the person that is now no longer in the picture. That's the person that the evil person that walked away. Now, allowing the owner to run the business. What's so key about this? I'm not sure about you, but running a business normally takes every waking moment. In fact, someone told me a while ago a saying that entrepreneurs have the flexibility to work any 24 hours in a 24-hour day they want. Basically meaning that you're working 24 hours. James, we're gonna have to mute you. So with that, how much bandwidth do you have to do other things? Do you have the bandwidth to run a process that might take a couple hundred hours? And that's really realistically what selling your business could entail. Yes, there's some that are really quick transactions, but if you were to run a formal process, kind of what we're going to talk about today, it could be hundreds of hours involved. And do you have that extra bandwidth? Because remember, during this process, that company, it can't be on the decline. It's got to stay, going in a good direction for you to get the value that, either the maximum value or the value that was discussed, the value that was negotiated going into the due diligence part. I mean, you want the business to stay strong. You don't want it to take a dip, which if you're distracted as a business owner and you're away from the focus, that could happen. All right. Now, you also have that brand behind you. What does that mean? Well, when you're going out to talk to buyers by yourself, okay, that's great. But when there's this brand that's saying, hey, this is a deal we've already vetted, we have a reputation to maintain, that little extra, how do you say it, logo could make all the difference. It could make whoever's on the other side take you more seriously. And let's talk about
Sean, you muted yourself.
All right. Thank you guys for letting me know. Please, yeah, can't hear. All right, so we're good to go. We are, how far back?
Like 4 seconds, nothing big.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so you got the great brand behind you, helping you out, pushing you, giving you that support, giving you that brand recognition. I mean, look at startups. They graduate Y Combinator, they graduate Plug and Play, they graduate these incubators, accelerators, and they have this brand behind them. Investors take them more seriously. Same with companies when they're working with either a business broker, M&A advisor, investment bank. When you have that logo, that brand behind you, that other side might take it more of a serious transaction, more of a serious opportunity. Success-based, most people you work with, they're highly success-driven. Most of what they make is when there's a close. So they'll make sure, or they'll monitor the process. They'll move it along. They'll keep things going step by step. And something that, well, Sam Wong, who's on the call, I'm not sure if you've seen his amazing presentations, but mental wellness. This is not something that is nice and smooth. This process has ups and downs, and we're going to be talking about that later. And just, well, sometimes people break halfway through. It's just too daunting, but we'll discuss this. So why do people look to exit? There's basically 3 reasons. One, they want to exit. They feel, okay, it's time. I've put in years in this company. I want to move on, or maybe I have another idea. There's something else I want to try, or maybe there's a change in their life. They're having their first kid, or There could be many reasons, but they want to do it at that specific time. They prepared, they're ready. What's another? They have no choice. There's that saying, the 3 Ds: death, disease, divorce. Maybe there's a major event in their life and they're going, oh my gosh, I just have to sell my business. There's no choice. They got to do it then. Or what we see a lot is that unsolicited acquisition offer where they're kind of curious of, is this the right time to sell? Is it not? What value would I get from my company if I were to sell it now? And there's many reasons why they might get that unsolicited acquisition offer, or that private equity group or that strategic or someone comes to them and goes, hey, we're really interested in your company. It could be that company has this amazing engineering team and they want to acquire them. They could be that group just bought an add-on company in their portfolio maybe a year or two back, and they think, oh my gosh, this company would be a great addition to it. Or maybe they think, wow, your company has all these clients that we can upsell our product to, or they like the revenue that you have. Maybe they're this bigger company where they can buy you off EBITDA and then, basically sell you off revenue. It's as the company size difference, there's a lot of multiples that change, and we'll go a tiny bit into that at the end. Or maybe your IP, your tech. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why someone might come to you and say, hey, we're kind of interested in your business right now. Could we talk? And you might say, now that someone's come and approached me, maybe I just want to explore what that looks like. So reasons: you want to sell, you don't want to sell, maybe you're just curious. All right. So we've talked about, so at the very beginning, we mentioned a lot of the questions we're going to be covering, just to go over everything so far. And I really like to review things as we go along, just a heads up for everyone. So why do people sell their business? Well, maybe they want to, it's time. Maybe something unforeseeable happened: death, divorce, disease, something like that. Maybe they're just kind of curious. Why work with a professional like an investment banker, a business broker, or that? You get the brand behind you. You have someone that's done the process. You have, able to focus on your business. There's a lot of reasons why. All right, now let's go into kind of the step-by-step process. Now, this isn't set. What I mean by that is everyone has a variation. Sometimes it might be 4 steps, 3 steps. Some of these steps might be left out, but think in general, you have that pre-market preparation, you have the marketing phase, and then you have the negotiation and documentation phase. So think of it broken into those 3 parts just for this presentation for simplicity. Now let's talk about the pre-market preparation. What happens right there? So you're gathering all the information on your company, and it's a lot of information. So for example, building out the data room. The data room is where you're going to store all this stuff. It could be your financials for the past 3 or 5 years. The P&L, the balance, the cash flow, all that. You could have your pro forma for the next 1, 3, 5 years. Articles of incorporation, your cap table, who owns the company, the org chart, all the information. You might have your HR handbook. You might have an environmental study. You might have, the list goes on and on, key metrics of the business, how it's changed over the years, the sales process, the marketing material. I mean, you're going to put in this data room pretty much everything you can think of to understand and what the whole company is comprised of in this one area. And highly recommend you do this early on. Why? The last thing you really want is at the end of the process, due diligence, where the potential buyer is saying, hey, we want access to this, we want access to that, where are they? And you're going, oh my gosh, I have to find where I have the trademark registration. I don't have that there. Oh, I got to find that. Or, oh my gosh, they're asking for this, and now it's going to take me a week or 2 to get that. You don't want that. You want everything in one nice place. Where this place is, this data room, you're going to use that information to build out your marketing materials. Now, what are the marketing materials? The marketing materials, depending on if it's an active, well, we'll just go to that right now, an active or a passive process, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But think of it as your blind profile. What that is, it has enough information to get someone excited about your company, but it doesn't tell them everything about it. It doesn't say the name of the company or the exact location. It might have a general area, but it's got enough information to it that people can look at it and they get excited about the company, but they don't know all the details. To find out more, they'll need to sign an NDA, and then they'll get a confidential information memorandum, a SIM, or some other type of document that goes more, into the heart of the company itself. Now, why would you do that? Why not just tell everyone every detail about your company? Well, I mean, you could, but if that were to happen, maybe that person starts poaching your employees, or maybe your employees find out that the company is possibly being, sold, and they start looking for other jobs. Or maybe your competitor uses it to go to your clients and go, listen, they're selling, there's probably a reason why you should switch over to us. There could be a lot of reasons. And those disruptions, I mean, do you really want them to happen when you really want this company to be very smooth? You want growth, you want everything to maintain how it is. So, having that information out there may not be the best thing. Now, to get to that other information packet, what we would call a confidential information memorandum, they sign an NDA first, a non-disclosure agreement. So it says basically, we're going to hold all this information confidential. We know it's valuable. So it would go from blind profile, NDA, confidential information memorandum, and then we continue the steps. But with this, I want to go back just a little bit more of how the process is run. Now, is this going to be a passive process or more of an active process? What's the difference? All right, a passive process is more, okay, let's just post it on a website, relax, let's just wait to see who are the inbound, who comes to us. An active process, that's more of, okay, we know our company, now let's go out and actively find that buyer based on their investment thesis. There's a lot of databases out there. PitchBook's a great resource. There's a lot of others where you can find, okay, my company, I know it's about this size. These are some of the range of what we're looking to sell, geographic location, sector. You can figure all that for your company, and then you'd match it on the other side with the people that companies in that space, private equity institutions, whoever that write checks or are interested in that. So you're matching up their investment thesis with your company. That's for certain size company. Smaller companies, it might be more, okay, this check size, it is going to be more of that mom and pop that lives nearby that's more interested. It's going to range quite a bit who those final buyers are, the ones that are most interested. That, you're going to have to do your own research for your company that you're with. On the other side, who's most likely? Is it that person that lives down the street, or is it more that institutional buyer that to acquire your company, or that strategic, that family office? Who knows? But it's matching them up. So the active is you're out there pushing it yourself. The passive is more you're sitting there and waiting. And it really depends. Prices, there's a lot of reasons why to do one or the other, but save that for another day. We can definitely double click on that another time. Okay, so we've gathered all the information. Now it's time to start marketing. We're going out to possibly all those websites and just posting it for more passive or more active. We're going out to the buyers. Maybe we've created a list of 1,000 potential buyers for our company based on, like I said, their investment thesis, what they're looking to buy, check size, location, sector, all those. And we're reaching out to them, and this is an active process, and saying, listen, here's my blind profile. You can find out some information about the company. If you want more, let me know. I can send you an NDA. We can move forward, get you more information. Or passive, okay, you put it on these sites, they've contacted you, you follow up with any of the questions. We won't go too much more in depth just because of time. But as this process moves forward, you're going to get people coming to you and going, I'd like to purchase your company. And then you're structuring the deal. How long will it take them to do due diligence, or what does that deal process look like where they're offering you? Is it all cash? Is it a seller's note? Is it earnout? Is it rollover in a new entity? These are all different. It really depends on what you're looking for, both as the buyer and the seller. I mean, and the risk. All cash, normally the valuation they'll give is the lowest, but cash is given, transactions good, move on, great. Seller's note, payments over time, earnout, similar, but not. So seller's note, think the company is an IOU. I mean, it's debt on the cap table. Earnout, that's money given to you when certain milestones are hit, tied to something. Rollover is equity in the new company. This is stuff that I definitely recommend everyone learning, researching on their own, talking to professionals. And this whole presentation, everything, honestly, people, talk to lawyers, talk to accountants, talk to business professionals. They can give you great advice. Definitely do as much homework as possible. All right. Phase 3, the negotiation and documentation. So say we've gone through this whole process. We've built out the data room. We've created the marketing materials. We've gone out. We started marketing to people. We found some that have been interested. They've signed NDAs. They've looked at confidential information memorandum. They've looked at all this information, and now they're saying, okay, I'm interested in purchasing this company. They've sent you a letter of intent, LOI, that has listed, the cash, whatever the structure is for what they're thinking of exchanging for your company. And maybe there's 5 or 10 of them. You narrow it down to that one, and you're saying, okay, we're going to move forward with this company into due diligence. That due diligence part could take 60 days, could take 90 days. It all, who knows? It's case by case basis with both the outside world, how long they need to check, the structure of the deal. There's a lot of reasons for that timeline, whether it's, could be really short, 30 days, who knows, but that's 60-day, 90-day time. Now let's talk about stuff that we've already covered today. So it's always, like I said, always nice to review. Why do people sell their business? Whether they want to, it's time. They have had some interest in their business from some outside parties, and it's made them curious about what the market might offer, or they have no other choice. Something else happened in their life and they just have to do it. Does it make sense to work with a professional? It might, depending on the situation. There's some pluses and some other reasons. Some of the pluses is you can focus on your business. You have someone that's walked through the process. You have a brand or logo. There's a lot of reasons why. Maybe you do like to do it on your own. That's fine. But we gave some ideas. We've talked about the step-by-step process, a kind of a general overview of it, where you have that gathering the data, you have the market in it, then you have the negotiation, the due diligence, and the sale. People do break those down into maybe 4 steps, but for this presentation, we're just going to use those 3. How long does it take to sell your company? Well, let's look at that timeline. Gathering all the materials, maybe that takes someone 2 weeks to do, or maybe it takes them 6 weeks to do. So depending on how long that takes, big difference. Okay, now creating the market materials. Are you just going to post it on a website? Is this more of a passive project or a passive process where you'll get it done, over a weekend, you'll post? Okay, or maybe you're creating all these great market materials, as mentioned before, the confidential information memorandum of that. Maybe that takes you 2 or 3 weeks, or whoever you're working with, 2 or 3 weeks to create. Okay, now depending, we could be at 2 months possibly, or could be less. Now let's think about, okay, you're going out to the market. Now, are you actively going out? Are you targeting all these potential acquirers? Are you creating that list? Is that list, did you spend 60, 80, 100 hours creating it? Do you have 1,000 names where every one you spent 15 minutes or so looking at them going, okay, do they check these boxes? Am I making a customized email just for this, or a general email? How am I pinpointing this person? if you're spending, 60, 80, 100 hours to create this list, well, 2-3 weeks. Or if you're just posting a website, different time. Now, when you're going out, when you're having these conversations, these email campaigns, these phone calls, that takes time. Well, how many campaigns are you doing? Are you doing 1, 2, 3? How many can you actually respond to in a day or in a week? How many phone calls can you get on? How big is the team supporting it? Keep that in mind. So that could be a month right there. Okay, you have now inbound questions from everyone. You're responding. If you're working with someone, they're responding for initial calls. They might match up you and say you're working with a professional. The professional screens the calls, answers the majority of the questions. Then once it's suitable, they introduce them to the buyer and they have the seller and have the management meetings. That takes time. Going from the LOIs to the due diligence process, that takes time. So from beginning to end, most of these processes could take 6 to 9 months. Yes, people say, well, they could do it maybe 3 or 4, possibly. But industry average, I would say, look online, do some research. Most likely 6 to 9 months, whole process beginning to end. Quite a long time, isn't it? But once you know all the steps, once you know how involved everything is, it all kind of makes sense why it is that long. All right. We didn't cover this yet, but due diligence, people break that into many different parts. You have a legal, you have accounting, you have business, you have technology. You could break those down even further, a lot further if you'd like. But these are kind of some, groups. So think technology, IT. Has the company been hacked? Does everyone own their own? Is all the software licensed? Is everything up to date? That's big. Accounting, the financials, the numbers, legal, employment contracts, business, articles of incorporation, all those things, everything we talked about before in the data room, having that well prepared in advance makes due diligence run a lot smoother. But, that's the part where the buyer is going to try to get all their questions solved, all their questions answered. What does this whole process look like? I mean, if we were to go out to, like I said, 500, 1,000 people, think of it as this huge funnel, slowly going down to that one closing. With each step, a huge drop off. I mean, you go out there, email, call, if this is an active process, not a passive where you're posted on sites. But say you go out and reach out to 1,000 people or 500 people. Then the responses you get from their, open rate, answering the call, that goes down quite a bit. All right, conversations where people are asking for more information, that goes down. All right, they've looked at that more information. Now they want to get on calls. Okay, that goes down. Okay, now they're interested in offering an LOI. All right, that goes down. Now it's time to pick that one person to move forward with into the quiet period, the due diligence to the closing. So think of it as this huge funnel going down. Same kind of for if it's a passive process, you have all these, websites out there. You might be working with someone, just their network, but from conversations you're having to the final one that you move forward with, it's quite that funnel. All right. So always great to review. Why do people sell their company? 3 reasons: want to, have to, are interested. Outside party, they can help guide, they can do a lot for you. Step-by-step process, getting everything together, building the marketing, going out. All right. How long does it take? 6 to 9 months, we'll say, just because of all the processes and steps that it takes. Could that time be a lot shorter? Of course. Could it be a lot longer? Possibly. You'll hear of deals that go a year, 2 years. You'll hear deals that close in 30, 60 days. It all depends. How to go about getting the most value for your company. good question on that one. So we talked about in due diligence. Oh, sorry. Um, in due diligence, all those different boxes, the IT, the financials, legal, business. We talked about the data room, capital work. We talked about all these things. There's going to be different parts of each company that are kind of different value drivers. You'll hear that you don't want all your customer, a huge concentration of your sales in one or two customers. You'll want them, distributed. You'll hear all these things online or from talking to experts about different value drivers, what makes companies valuable. Maybe it's the IP, maybe it's the brand, maybe there's all these things. Well, honestly, you're going to have to do kind of that research for your own company, your own sector, what that business is. Like, what are the value drivers? And when you're going out to sell or having these conversations where people are coming to you, those are great times to kind of find out, to get feedback. I mean, people are going to come to you possibly and say, I want to acquire your company for these reasons. Well, okay, take notes of those reasons. Find out why they're so interested in it. And those could be the value drivers. Or when you're going out to market and you're getting feedback from the buyers there, they're interested in acquiring your company for a multiple of this. All right, take feedback. Okay, they're interested for these multiples, or talk to other people that have similar companies that have sold them, or people that have worked with similar companies, and just ask them, hey, what are the value drivers that when you've had conversations in the past, what did buyers focus on? And getting that information is a great way for you to start thinking about the value drivers of your company. And there's a lot of business coaches out there that can help with this. There's a lot of these, anywhere from these there's consultants, there's coaches, there's, you name it, the gamut, that will be able to give advice, be able to give help, suggestions on what are possible things to tweak in your company to help bump it up when you're going out to market. All right, so I'm just going to take a little 30-second break right now to breathe and relax. So we're not at the Q&A part yet, we're almost there, but start thinking to yourself right now, what might be good questions to ask, on things that we've covered that maybe you want to dive a little bit deeper on, or that. So just start thinking to yourself that. And the video will be after the presentation. Okay. All right. Let's continue. Like I said, right now, start thinking about questions for later. All right. So things you should know. Talked about at the very beginning, one of the things of that mental wellness. This process is very emotional. You spent years and years possibly building out this business. You've had ups and downs. You might have put liens on everything you own, made all these sacrifices for time, family, and that for this business. And now it's time to sell. Well, okay. Throughout this process from building the materials, okay, maybe you might be really excited now going, okay, I'm going to sell this for this huge multiple, to going out to market when you're, okay, I'm sending all this information out there, I'm posting it everywhere, I'm talking to people. Oh my gosh, I'm exuberant, this is great. But then there could be that time of, hey, I'm not getting enough responses. I'm not getting people responding to my emails or asking me, and you'll have those lows. Then you might question, is this what am I doing? To the, okay, people are asking for more information. This is good, but why are they asking this? Why are they asking that? They're prying into me, my personal life. They're prying into this. I don't like that too. Okay, they're sending offers at letters of intent, but I don't like these multiples. Why or oh my gosh, this is so much money, or people around you, your loved ones, maybe they're not understanding how long this process takes. And for them, they think, okay, you're selling your business. Next month we'll go on vacation, where it's no, you're selling your business, but this is just the start of a long process. there's so many ups and downs in this that, I mean, mental wellness of business owners, of founders, you can listen to some of my podcasts in the past. I've interviewed some people. Chucky Orbido, he was the center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was talking about mental wellness for business owners. There's a lot of ups and downs in this process where, one moment an offer comes in and you're ecstatic. And then when you have a call and talk about it, you realize it might not be there. The person backing it, when you do the research on them, you're like, oh my gosh, this looks so great. But now that I'm researching who submitted it, it's not, you might have that low. So remember that throughout this process, have your team, have, everyone on the same page going into it. There's going to be ups and downs, most likely. Very rarely it's going to be smooth. And just know that with that, it's part of the process. And hopefully you've built that team around you that can emotionally give you some support, give you some guidance, and not only through the process, but then at the end. So imagine you spent, and if it's, say you're walking away completely, say you spent, 60, 80 hours a week working on this thing. And then at the very end in the contract, it's just, okay, consultant, or 3 months, 6 months, you'll stay on. And then after, what are you going to do after? Do you have hobbies? Have you already thought of traveling? Have you, what are you going to do with your time? That's all I'm saying. So have all that in advance, and know that there's that emotional roller coaster. Next. So I wanted to give some examples of when I talked about kind of knowing the value drivers for your business. Now, I just took this from 10 SaaS metrics and KPIs you should know, the website. So for a SaaS company, for example, some of the metrics that you're going to be judged on include these that are listed here. For example, Net Promoter Score. What does your user really think of your product? Are they ecstatic? Are they exuberant? Are they telling the world? If they were to go on social media about their company, would they see all these raving reviews, or would they see, 1-star terrible reviews of, bad comments? What's the customer lifetime value? Has that been increasing? I mean, you have hopefully the data for your company over the last few years. And are you seeing that increase? Whereas at the beginning, our lifetime value was this much, but now we've done these changes and now it's here. What is that? I mean, how much money is going in for that new client? Going back to the cost of acquiring a company, CAC, or customer. Are you putting $1 in and getting $10 out? Are you putting $100 in and getting $101 out? What does that look like? What's industry average? All these metrics here, and there's many others, but I just wanted to give an example. So I pulled this from this one website. You're going to be asked about your monthly reoccurring revenue for a SaaS company. You're going to be asked for the website conversion rates. All these numbers, it's going to come up. Hopefully you put that in the data room. Hopefully it's already there. Hopefully, actually, ideally, you've tracked all this for years and years and years, month over month over month, and you can show, what has changed over time. So, keep these metrics in mind. But I guess for your company itself, whatever sector it is, that find out what kind of the key value drivers are, what's kind of, being judged, and start monitoring that from day one early. So you have those, so that then later when the time is right, you can show people and go, okay, at one time it was this, then it was this, now it's this. In the future, we believe it could be this. And that story, that information, if you were the one buying, how would you look at it? I guess that's a good way of putting it. When you're selling, how do you visualize it? Okay, that's one area. But as a buyer, if you were to go out and buy this company, how would you look at it? What questions would you ask? What would you want to see? And that will help you prepare from the seller side. So no question on these metrics and that. All right. Now, industry data, I pulled this from MicroAcquire, a website. One thing about multiples is they're always changing. It's just one, Data Point. There's so many others out there to use and reference for your business. And I'm just putting this for SaaS just to give an example of things out there. And they're just guidelines. They're not a set rule. Like, for example, if your company is, average SaaS profit multiple, if it's doing over 1 million on their platform, when they looked at 127 transactions, or sorry, when they looked at the transactions on their platform, they saw that it sold for 6.1x, profit. That's a SaaS company in there. It's got the data. That's just a data point, right? And there's many other reasons for the value in the company, whether it's the assets, whether it's the cost of replacement, present transactions, whether it's revenue. There's so many things that a potential buyer might look at a company and say, okay, this is what I'm offering this money based on. But I just wanted to give people a example of, if you go online, if you do some search, things that you might get back, things that you might hear. So another thing pulled from Micro Acquirers, the links there at the bottom, if you'd like to look them up. They do a quarterly report where they compile all the information on their platform and give it out to everyone. You can find it there. And pretty much there's so many databases online right now, or if you're working with a professional that they would have access to, that they could pull this data for you and have that conversation of going, okay, this is where your company is. This is some things we see in the market, multiples, all that. Your company might be in this range for these reasons. And, it's a conversation. There's another one. All right. So what are some things I'm hearing? And once again, I'm just using this SaaS companies as an example just for this presentation. Other sectors, other types of businesses, completely different. But some of the questions that people have come to me with in 2022 consist of employee retention. If we were to buy this company, how do we know that all the employees are going to stay on? It's these engineers, whatever role they are, that's value. That's huge value in a company. And if there's a transition, maybe they walk. And it's very difficult right now in the current market, it seems, to hire new employees. Tell me about the engineer talent. Maybe they're interested in just acquiring the company for the engineers, for the programmers, for that, because, well, they're having trouble hiring, or they're especially skilled and they think that they'd be a great addition to their team. Blended CAC. What do I mean by blended CAC? CAC, cost of acquiring a customer, both organic and paid ads, and that click. Like, what does that average together? What does that look like? How many of these new customers are coming through word of mouth from existing customers? How many of them are coming in from these paid marketing ads, this outbound reach? And then when you bring them together and compare them, what is that new number? That's coming up a lot. Customer retention trends over COVID. Was it flat? Was it up? Was it down? What did this company do during that time frame? Was it the best time they ever had? The worst time? Was it steady? Tell us about that. Work from home and how that impacted work. Was the return from the employees, was it at an all new high? There's companies now where some of them are saying come back to work. Others are saying, okay, we're going to stay remote permanently. Others are saying it's going to be half and half, come in 3 days. If everyone's working from home, it's a little bit different for maybe the buyers, if it's location based and they just want to roll all those engineers into their office, their current location when they acquire. So that conversation is coming up. Where is everyone located and working in? Well, just switching over to net down there, the 1099 friendly states. But there's been companies that they'll outsource this development work, they'll outsource this marketing, they'll outsource this design. Okay. Or maybe they have these people they've been working with them, these assistants that are 1099, but are they in states where laws are changing? What does that look like? Do they have to be converted to W-2 employees, or can they stay 1099? Or where are these employees located? That's if especially the work from home, that's coming up. I'm hearing a ton of these questions. And then IT, cybersecurity about a company. Those questions have come up quite a bit as well. Okay, so I know this presentation, we talked about it going 35, 40 minutes, and it has been going a little bit longer, but I just wanted to recap everything before we do go questions from the audience. All right, we talked about, let's actually go from the bottom up. Questions buyers might ask. They might ask all those key value drivers, those key metrics of your company. They'll ask for everything that we've talked about earlier that would be in the data room. There's a long list of those online. There's a long list if you're working with professional that they'll give you. They'll also, that is a good template to use. Things to avoid during the deal process. Well, not being prepared. I'm going to say that's a big thing. Not having documents ready, not having things where they, a nice place to gather to get so that you can pass them off quickly. How to get the most value for your company. Find out those value drivers in your industry, in the market. Talk to professionals, do some research, make sure that those processes, that everything is there. How long does it take to sell a company? We'll say 6 to 9 months. That could be faster, it could be longer. A lot of variables there. Everything you'll notice, it is kind of an art. I'm not saying anything's set. Everything's flexible. Everything is case by case basis. That's what kind of makes this whole thing very interesting. Step-by-step process. I mean, we put gathering the data, we have market in it, we have negotiations, due diligence, close, working with professionals, whether it's an investment banker, whether it's an M&A professor, business broker. There's a lot of people out there, lawyers, accountants. There's a lot of people that have experience with this to talk to, and definitely talk to everyone in advance or and then second break. What part of the process do you guys have questions with before, during, and after the process? I'm going to take a sip of water, and then, well, actually, before that, I have a little video, a little cartoon that we had made. So I think everyone has audio, so check it out. And we can't play media. They always say don't have videos in your presentations, and this just proves why. So a little bit of breather, and then we'll close it off. And in the chat, the video will be shared after. All right. So once again, why hire a professional? Expert in the sales process. The evil banker or helper walks away, allows business owner to run the business, have a brand behind you, success-based model. There's other reasons. And with that, here's my QR code. Please scan that, connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll find out more about me, where I'm at, everything I do. And that is the end of the presentation. Stop share. And we will open it up to questions right now. Okay, so one question was, merger and acquisitions from vertical to vertical can be different. What type of lawyers, advisors, mentors do you need to have on your team for a successful exit? That's a really great question. It's really a case-by-case basis. I mean, you'll want most likely people that have had more experience that just focus on those areas. Yes, they could be more pricey. Depend on the size of your business. I mean, if this is a mom and pop business, you're not going to use the same team as if this is, a business doing, say, 50 million revenue a year, 10 million EBITDA, and you're not going to use the same team as this. It's a 200, 300, 400 million revenue business. It's all case by case basis. But there's enough people out there that if once you have the conversation, they'll say, listen, for this type of transaction, this is the recommended team to put together. Oh, someone needs to scan the QR code. Oh, yeah, this QR code is the same QR code as the one that was in the video or in the presentation. It just takes you to my LinkedIn to connect with me there. That's just the best way. I believe that the recording is just going to be the video recording. Um, would the same process work for acquiring a franchise? So are you're talking about being on the buy side versus the sell side? I mean, the buy side is pretty similar, whereas you'd go out and either reach out to these companies and say, listen, I'm interested in acquiring you, or maybe they're already for sale. Maybe they've listed someplace. I mean, right now, what we're seeing a lot of or having conversations are these franchises that are rolling up. And so there's many of them, and then they're taking that whole group and being bought by a private equity group. So talk to some advisors, business brokers, that franchisees, franchisors. But you know, it's a similar process if you're on either side of the transaction, with the outreach, the questions, the analyzing the situation, the making the offer, there's a lot of those. Yeah, getting access to the data room, looking through that, lot of good stuff. There's a lot of questions in the chat, or direct questions that are kind of personal about business case by case. For a lot of those, I mean, it is case by case. Talk to a lawyer about it. Talk to your whoever you're working with, your accountants, your if you are working with a business broker, investment banker, or a consultant, talk to them. Basically, I'm going to defer from individual case by case companies more, because you really need to know a lot more detail on those than just a one sentence question. I mean, it's all pretty much situational. So what I could tell you is kind of what a normal introductory process would be of, you know, most likely whoever you're working with, they're going to want to look at whatever data you have, the financials and that put together. They're going to ask you a lot of questions about the company itself. They're going to ask you questions about your goals, what you want to do, what works for you. You know, there's going to be a lot of communication, a lot of conversations. But specifically in the chat right now, please don't point, you know, my startup is doing this, my startup, or I have this idea for a company. You know, let's keep this overview to the process itself, which was what this presentation more or less focused on. Okay. What are some of the major red flags in the early days as a seller that you have to be wary of? So I'm guessing that's a seller when you're talking to a potential buyer. Is that right? Or just a seller organizing kind of the whole process? Well, first off, I mean, talking about organizing everything, getting the data together. If you don't have your financials, I mean, that's huge. It's surprising how many people don't have you know, updated financials. They don't really know their metrics. They don't really know the numbers that they should. That's kind of the biggest thing. I mean, because while you're putting all this data together, what a lot of people realize is they learn quite a bit about their company in the process, about areas that they may have not paid much attention to in the past. And when they're putting it all together, they're learning quite a bit. I mean, they're having conversations with you know, accountants, lawyers, whoever, compiling this, and they're starting to see, you know, why these or why this, why that. And it's a process that takes time. I guess that would be kind of a red flag when people think it can be done the next day. And these processes it takes a long time to get a business ready for sale, done right if you can. It's not something that really should be rushed. I mean, you spend so much time building this that, you know, it's good to kind of do things right. So having enough time to do it is important. Making sure that, you know, in advance you kind of have an idea of your outcome that you've taught to your, you know, wealth advisor, tax advisors, any key consultants, any key people you need to talk to kind of have that understanding of, you know, this is the potential outcome. What am I really looking at? And knowing that before really moving forward in the process. And then during the whole process, taking all the feedback, taking all the information and learning from it, and being willing to pivot, being willing to change, being willing to, almost like water, very fluid during these conversations, because you're getting so much valuable information while you're having these conversations about everything. Okay. With that, people, it is now 10 o'clock here. I think this was a great event. I want to thank Rob, Idea IPO, for allowing me on his platform to give a presentation. I want to thank Sam Wong from Fundable Startups. If you've not seen his presentations, you're missing out. Definitely recommend attending them. His content is absolutely fantastic. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to be here this morning or this evening, wherever you are. And please look forward to getting a copy of this recording and connect with me on my LinkedIn. The QR code right there throughout the presentation connects with my LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. You'll find out everything I'm working on. Also, subscribe to my podcast, the Silicon Valley Podcast. I interview entrepreneurs, investors, leaders in tech, and release a new episode all the time. Today's episode that's going live, I interviewed Wendy Xu, who is Miss Nepal, who has a startup. She's raised a bunch of capital for building schools in Nepal. I've interviewed, in fact, I interviewed Sam Wong there from Fundable Startups. His interview is absolutely amazing. And, you know, with that, you know, thank you guys. So I'm going to do a little countdown right now. If anyone wants to, you know, copy or whatever is in the chat, please go ahead and do that. But if not, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.